Introduction. The companies around us. When a group of people goes into business together, they usually form a company. Most business in the world is done by companies. The word company comes from a Latin word that means companion. The formal name for a company is corporation. Corporation comes from corpus, another Latin word meaning body. In this case, a body of people who join together to conduct business. Corpse also comes from corpus, although this has nothing to do with the subject at hand, since corpses are unable to do business. To form a corporation is easy. All it takes is paying a small fee and filing a few papers in the state in which you want to maintain a legal address. Delaware is the most popular choice, because the laws there are favorable to business. But thousands of new corporations are formed every year in every state. Whenever you see an Inc. attached to the end of the name of a business, it means that company has filed the papers to become a corporation. Inc. is short for incorporated. In the eyes of the law, a corporation is a separate individual that can be punished for bad behavior, usually by the imposition of a fine. That's the main reason owners of a business go to the trouble of getting incorporated. If they do something wrong and they get sued, the corporation takes the rap and they get off the hook. Imagine if you borrowed your parents' car without permission and ran it into a tree. How much better you'd feel if you were incorporated. Do you remember the Exxon Valdez disaster in Alaska? When an oil tanker ran aground and spilled 11 million gallons of oil into Prince William Sound. This created a huge mess that took months to clean up. The tanker belonged to Exxon, America's third largest company. At the time, Exxon had hundreds of thousands of shareholders who were part owners of the business. If Exxon hadn't been incorporated, all those people could have gotten sued individually and lost their life savings on account of an oil spill that wasn't their fault. Even if Exxon were found innocent, they would have had to pay the legal bills to defend themselves. In this country, you're innocent until proven guilty, but you pay the lawyers either way. That's the beauty of the corporation. It can be sued, as can its managers and directors. But the owners, the shareholders, are protected. They can't be sued in the first place. In England, companies put the word limited after their names. This indicates that the liability of the owners is limited, just the way it is in U.S. companies. If anybody ever asks you what the limited means, now you've got the answer. This is a crucial safeguard of our capitalist system, because if shareholders could be sued whenever a company made a mistake, people like you and me would be afraid to buy shares and become investors. Why would we want to run the risk of being held responsible for another big oil spill, or a rat hair in a hamburger, or the endless variety of mishaps that occur in business every day? Without limited liability, nobody would want to buy a single share of stock. Private companies and public companies. The vast majority of businesses in this country are private. They are owned by one person or a small group of people. And more often than not, the ownership is kept in the family. You can find examples of private companies up and down the block on every main street in every village and town, and scattered throughout the cities of America and the world. These are the barbershops, hair salons, shoe repair outlets, bicycle shops, baseball card stores, candy stores, junk stores, antique stores, second-hand stores, vegetable stands, bowling alleys, bars, jewelry stores, used car lots, and local mom-and-pop restaurants. Most hospitals and universities are private as well. What makes these businesses private is that the general public can't invest in them. If you spend the night at the Sleepy Hollow Motel, and you're impressed with the place and how it's run, You can't very well knock on the manager's door and demand to be made a partner. Unless you're related to the owners. Or the owner has a son or daughter who wants to marry you. Your chances of getting a share in this business are close to zero. Look at the difference when you spend the night at a Hilton or a Marriott and you're impressed with those places. You don't have to knock on any doors. Or marry anybody's son or daughter to become an owner. All you have to do is call a stockbroker and put in an order to buy shares. Hilton and Marriott sell their shares in the stock market. Any company that does this is called a public company. Although there are more private companies than public companies in America, the public companies are generally much bigger. Which is why most people work for public companies. In a public company, you and your parents, your Aunt Sally, or the neighbors down the block can all buy shares and become owners automatically. Once you've paid your money, you get a certificate, called a stock certificate, that proves you're one of the owners. This piece of paper has real value. You can sell it whenever you want. A public company is the most democratic institution in the world. When it comes to who can be an owner, it's an example of true equal opportunity. It doesn't matter what color you are, what sex, what religion, what sign of the zodiac, or what nationality, or whether you have bunions, pimples, or bad breath. Even if the chairman of the board of McDonald's holds a grudge against you, he can't stop you from becoming an owner of McDonald's. The shares are out there in the stock market, being sold 5 days a week, 6.5 hours a day. And whoever has the cash and pays the price can buy as many as he or she wants. What's true for McDonald's is also true for the 13,000 other public companies in the United States today, a list that continues to grow. Public companies are everywhere. And they surround you from morning to night. You can't get away from them. What do Nike, Chrysler, General Motors, The Gap, the Boston Celtics, United Airlines, Staples, Wendy's, Coca-Cola, Harley-Davidson, Sunglass Hut, Marvel Comics, Kodak, Fuji, Walmart, Rubbermaid, Time Warner, and Winnebago have in common? They're all public companies. You can play the alphabet game, A to Z, naming a public company for each letter. Inside the house, down the street, around the school, and through the malls. You can't help running into a large crowd of them. Nearly everything you eat, wear, read, listen to, ride in, lie on, or gargle with is made by one. Perfume to penknives, hot tubs to hot dogs, nuts to nail polish are made by businesses that you can own. The sheets on your bed might come from West Point Stevens. The clock radio from General Electric. The toilet, sink, and faucets from American Standard or Elger. The toothpaste and shampoo from Procter & Gamble. The razors from Gillette. The lotions from The Body Shop. The toothbrushes from Colgate-Palmolive. Put on your Fruit of the Loom underwear. The skirts and slacks made by Hager or Farrah that you bought from The Gap or The Limited. Sewn from fabric that came from Gailey and Lord out of fibers produced by DuPont Chemical. Lace up your Reeboks or the Keds you bought at the Foot Locker, a division of Woolworth, where you paid the bill with a Citibank Visa card. Already, you're involved with dozens of public companies. And you haven't gotten to the breakfast table. There, you'll find the Cheerios supplied by General Mills. The Pop-Tarts and Eggo waffles supplied by Kellogg's. The Tropicana orange juice by Seagram. Better known for whiskey than for fruit drinks. The Entente Mans brought to you by Philip Morris. which also produces Kraft cheese and Oscar Mayer hot dogs in addition to their Marlboros. Your toast may pop out of a toaster from Toastmaster, which has been in business since the 1920s and is still going strong. The coffee pot, microwave, stove, and refrigerator are made by public companies. And the larger supermarkets where you or your parents buy the food are public as well. Maybe you ride to school in a bus built by General Motors out of steel from Bethlehem Steel, with the windshield glass coming from PPG Industries, the tires from Goodyear, and the wheels made by Superior Industries from aluminum that Superior gets from Alcoa. The gas for the bus comes from Exxon, Texaco, or one of the many public oil companies. The bus is insured by Aetna. The bus itself may be owned by Laidlaw, a company that runs the bus system in many school districts. The books in your book bag have likely been published by one of the publicly owned book companies, such as McGraw-Hill, Houghton Mifflin, or Simon & Schuster, the publishers of the book you're reading right now. Simon & Schuster is a division of Paramount, which until recently also owned Madison Square Garden, the New York Knicks basketball team, and the New York Rangers hockey team. In 1994, another public company, Viacom, swallowed Paramount in a takeover. Takeovers happen all the time in business. On Wall Street, there are more raids and conquests than you'll see in any war movie made by Paramount, or by Universal Studios, a division of MCA that got taken over by the Japanese, or by MCA itself, which is now a part of Seagram. Maybe you eat the school lunch that's cooked on an Amana radar range made by Raytheon, the same company that makes the Patriot missile. Or maybe you drive off campus to the nearest publicly owned hamburger joints, McDonald's, Wendy's, or Burger King, which is a division of Grand Metropolitan, a British public company. Coke and Pepsi come from public companies. And Pepsi also owns Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, Frito-Lay, and Kentucky Fried Chicken. So Pepsi shareholders invest in all of these at once. Hershey bars, Wrigley's gum, Tootsie Rolls, and most of the candy in vending machines are produced by public companies, except for Snickers candy, made by the Mars family. When you get home in the afternoon and pick up the phone to call your boyfriend or girlfriend, you're using the services of at least one publicly traded phone company. And if it's a long-distance call, you're using 3. The Baby Bell, 9X, Pactel, etc. That serves your neighborhood. The long-distance carrier, Sprint, MCI, or the original Ma Bell, AT&T, that carries the call out of town, and another Baby Bell at the other end of the line. You can buy stock in any or all of these companies, as well as in the supporting cast of suppliers of cables and switches, companies that make and launch telecommunications satellites, and companies that manufacture the phones themselves. Your TV set is made by a public company, most likely Japanese. If you've got cable, it's a good bet your cable company is public. Of the 3 major networks, CBS was recently taken over by Westinghouse. NBC is owned by General Electric, and ABC is merging with Disney. Westinghouse, General Electric, and Disney are all public companies. And so is Turner Broadcasting, which owns and operates CNN and has agreed to merge with Time Warner. You can invest in Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and Oprah by buying shares in King World, a public company that syndicates those 3 shows, among others. You can invest in The Simpsons or in Cops by buying shares in Rupert Murdoch's News Corp. News Corp owns 20th Century Fox Television, the Fox network, which in turn owns these 2 shows. Nickelodeon, Nick at Night, and MTV belong to Viacom, the parent company of Blockbuster Video. Most of the products advertised on TV are made by public companies. Many of these ads are written and produced by public ad agencies such as the Interpublic Group. It's easier to rattle off 1,000 names of big-time companies that are public than it is to name 10 that are still private. While there's no shortage of mom-and-pop businesses that are private, when you get to the major leagues, it's hard to find a company that doesn't sell shares to the public. As already mentioned, the Mars Company, which makes Mars bars, Milky Way, and Snickers, is private. So is Levi Strauss, the blue jeans manufacturer. A few insurance giants, John Hancock, for instance, are mutual companies. But maybe not for long. In almost every chain of stores or fast food outlets you can think of, every major manufacturer, every company with a brand name product, you can be an owner. It's not as expensive as you might imagine. In fact, for slightly more than the price of a one-day pass to the Magic Kingdom, you can become part owner of the entire Disney empire. And for the same price as 20 Big Macs plus fries, you can become an owner of McDonald's, along with a lot of big shots on Wall Street. No matter how old you are or how many shares of stock you'll buy in your lifetime, it's always a thrill to walk into a McDonald's, a Toys R Us, or a Circuit City and watch the customers lining up to buy the merchandise, knowing that you've got a piece of the action and that some smidgen of the profits will end up in your pocket. When you buy a VCR from Circuit City or rent a video from Blockbuster, if you're an owner of either of these companies, you're actually spending money for your own benefit. This is an important part of our way of life that the founding fathers couldn't have dreamed up. From sea to shining sea, over 50 million men, women, and children have become part owners in 13,000 different public companies. Being a shareholder is the greatest method ever invented to allow masses of people to participate in the growth and prosperity of a country. It's a two-way street. When a company sells shares, it uses the money to open new stores, or build new factories, or upgrade its merchandise.